What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTube? Wait, we're not on YouTube. I mean, we'll actually be on YouTube. Whoops. Ah, the webcam's being weird again. Let me go up here. I should get rid of that. What's up, guys? Oh, nope, it's still being weird. Alright, we'll do this. That should de-weird it. Hopefully. Are we de-weirded? We appear to be de-weirded. What's up, guys? So, I'm not quite that large yet. I'm working on it. Or rather, I'm working on the opposite. It's actually kind of funny. I'm at the point now... hell, actually, I'm at the point where even if I eat whatever I want and don't exercise that much, I'm not gaining weight. The problem is losing weight. That's the biggest catch. I am gaining muscle. You guys probably can't tell. I can, but of course I have to literally feel this and feel this to tell. But it's a lot more muscle than I've had in a while, actually, in several years, about 10 years, actually. But you may or may not hear some 3DS stuff in the background based on how I have this set up. I want to show you guys something before we really get started. For everybody who was there last night. Okay, so... one of the things I used to do to help me go to sleep was I used to grind on my DS. This is not a joke. You know, I'd pull up my, you know, Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy or whatever on the DS, and I just level, until it got to the point where I was basically passing out. Save, close the DS, and then I'd actually pass out. So last night, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna grind a bit. Is Lurker on? Because this is actually kind of relevant. Yeah, Lurker is... Well, Lurker's in the chat. I don't know if he's on. So, I want to show you guys something, okay? I really wish I was making this up. I guess I actually don't wish I was making it up. I'm very glad that I wasn't making this up. So, so you may or may not recognize this Pokemon. Spirit Memory there. What I want you to pay attention to, in addition to the fact that I got it, is the thing immediately to the left of its name. Do you see that, guys? Do you see that? I'll pause for a moment to make sure you guys see it. Now, if you don't know what that means, let me give you a bit of a demonstration. So you notice that Deutsch there has the standard ball. And there's a standard ball, there's a standard ball, there's a great ball. If you don't recognize that ball, that is the heal ball. For those of you who weren't really there for us for the journey, so we sent a heal ball, 100% catch rate, to get Brigwin, the Crobat, the second... or third, excuse me, Petlil, and something else, actually. I don't remember which off the top of my head, but there was something else we got. Oh, there we go, that's better. I actually don't remember. Who was it? We got another one with that. There it is. That was the Smeargle that had been causing us issues. That's right, it was the Smeargle. Now, here's where this gets funny, though. I didn't just catch it with a heal ball. So here's what happens. I'm like, and I'm like, oh, hey, it's a Bagon. And it woke me up a bit, seeing the Bagon. I'm like, okay, I gotta take this seriously. As you can see, I actually have a Ghastly in my party with Hypnosis. And I'm like, okay, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna Hypnosis it. And then I just pause for a moment. I'm like, you know what, before I do anything, because I refuse to attack it at all. All my Pokemon are like level 20 from like grinding this guy. So before I attack it at all, I'm like... just for kicks, I'm going to throw the one and only heal ball I have at it, without even touching it. First action. No debuffs, no attacks. My jaw actually dropped as I was laying there in bed. I'm like, what? So, we are literally 4 for 4 on the heal balls. And I didn't even touch it. Did not even touch it, and it caught it. To give you a little bit of an idea of that, what that means, the catch rate on this guy is 45, which is pretty low. To give you a little bit of a comparison to that, let's go with like something that's much easier to catch, like say a Rattata has a catch rate of 255. So, yeah. Maybe Takoida? I mean, I don't even know at this point. It's the weirdest luck streak I've ever had in these games. It may be Lurker. Maybe. Anyways, I really wanted to share that before we get into Loreweek, because that just blew me away. So we are now 100% on catching everything that we can catch without doing special stuff on this first island. Yeah. Now I gotta shut down this before it bugs out my webcam. There we go. So anyways. There we go. Let's put this thing on the charger now. It's great. I'm loving it, Zed. I want to keep playing it. Let's play this instead of doing Loreweek. Who's with me? I don't know how it ranks versus the others. I can't rank that, but it's got a lot of good gameplay stuff. No, we're doing Blizzard stuff today. We have to. We got to get our quest in. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. Where's my pen? There it is. First of all, before we get into anything super heavy, super duper heavy. So as some of you know, as you know, I don't own a PS4. And to be completely honest, I was actually legitimately considering grabbing a PS4, kind of like us as a surprise thing, and then being like, surprise, FF15. Then I had to get new tires for my car, which was about $500. So that idea went out the window. No, I don't think so, Malachor. That's horrifying. So that idea just went flying out the window, and that's probably not happening. Possibly ever. Possibly ever. Especially given things that are going to be happening soon. I'm not sure. Like, I don't want to do an announcement on that just yet. But I really don't get why I have to do these manually. Suffice to say, there's a pretty good chance that in the coming months, plural, I'll have a lot less time for the show. And I'm not sure how I'm going to manage that, but, you know, I'll figure it out. Anyways, the idea to get a PS4 is one. Hey, Zeiss. So, I was actually watching Raxaimus streaming the FF15 demo recently, and I want to kind of plug that. He has a PS4. He was playing the Judgment thing. It looks smooth. It was kind of cool. As usual, it's hard to judge if I'm going to like FF15. Not only have I not played it myself, but you know, I still know almost nothing about where the story's going to go, or how well written it's going to be, or how well voice acted it's going to be. But overall, it looked cool. It looked interesting. It looked like the kind of thing I would want to do a premiere run of. So, I just want to kind of plug that Raxaimus is going to be doing some FF15 stuff. I don't know exactly when, but he's going to be doing that. This is your cue, Raxaimus, to be like, hey, this is what I'm doing it. Apparently I need to watch the movie. I don't know if you heard the thing I just said about how I'm going to have less time in the future, not more. I'm going to have less time in the future, not more. So, I really don't know how I'm going to make that work. I'm going to do my damnedest, or I'm going to kill myself, one of the two. So, that's actually all I've got to say about that. There you go, November 30th at 7 p.m. Raxaimus is going to be doing his Streamination. If I'm not mistaken, that's next Wednesday. I am also, I've also, based on what things have been, how things have been going, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to be doing at least an exploration of, if not a full-on, premiere run of Dishonored 2 this week. I'm going to be putting that up on the schedule soon. But that's probably going to be starting Friday at 11 a.m. So, heads up on that. Let's get some random music here going, shall we? There we go. Let's just get some music playing. Okay, so that's actually all I got to say. But I wanted to make sure people heard that plug and heard that Raxaimus is going to be doing some stuff, and I want people to watch him in general. He's a cool guy, even if he's a competitor and he's a press person before I am, and my life is sad and pathetic. So next point, for those of you not aware, I have actually received the question many times. Like, okay, so every now and again we're talking about a particular game or franchise or IP, and we're like, hey, you know, wouldn't it be cool if they did an RTS in this franchise? Wouldn't it be cool if they did a 4X in this franchise? Wouldn't it be cool if they did, you know, whatever? One of the most common questions that comes up there is, wouldn't it be cool if they did a Telltale in that franchise? Hello, 1988. I think it would actually be kind of really awesomely cool if they did, for example, a Telltale set in Primus. I think that's a great franchise for that. Not that it's a franchise, but, you know, whatever. So for those of you not aware, Telltale is going to be doing a Guardians of the Galaxy game. It's going to be a lead-up into Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So it's going to be happening in between the movies. And from everything I've read, although this is still in the rumors phase, it will actually... like, the stuff within it will... I mean, obviously you can't change the movie. But there will be stuff in the game that will be directly related to the second movie. Which is a cool concept. And it's kind of more of that branching out multimedia... that's such a weird word nowadays. It's so misused. But anyways, a multiple mediums... kind of approach to Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which is a movie I'm already excited about and something I'm cool about. And yeah, and like I said, there's plenty of other things I would love to see Telltale do a take on. I mean, someone just mentioned Final Fantasy. Could you imagine if they did like a Telltale Final Fantasy 6 set like during, you know, in watching everything else that's been happening like that? Anyways, so regardless, that's that. I actually don't have much else to say about that, believe it or not. But because I keep getting this question, I do want to answer this. Some people are like, when are you going to go back to the Telltale Batman games? Let me make the formula clear here, okay? We do an exploration on episode 1 when it comes out. Then we play all 5 episodes when all 5 episodes are out. So we're not even going to touch the Batman stuff until the Batman stuff is done. Now, I believe episode 4 is coming out pretty soon from what I saw. But I've heard no word whatsoever about episode 5, or if episode 5 is the end yet. So, heads up on that. Okay, next thing to talk about, speaking of stuff that's just kind of weird. Let me take my usual timestamp note here. My vague stuff here. Next thing I want to talk about is Ghost in the Shell. Although I don't actually have a lot to share about Ghost in the Shell. So, I actually had a question recently. What is Ghost in the Shell? And I found that to be an interesting question, because I am like the worst person to ask about most animes. Yeah, exactly, Dakota. The Ferrari. Ghost in the Shell, for those of you not aware, is an anime set in a very interesting... See, I hesitate to call Ghost in the Shell cyberpunk, even though it qualifies literally for the definition, but at the same time, most cyberpunks are grittier and more horrible, like Cyberpunk 2020, like Blade Runner, like Shadowrun. You know, that's cyberpunk. Ghost in the Shell is much more everyday life. Also happens to include lots and lots of high technology, basically. Is the best way I could describe the premise of Ghost in the Shell. You follow the Major as the primary character, and she herself is primarily cybernetic. Yeah, it's a little more like the Deus Ex thing, which again is technically cyberpunk, but I really feel like there's another genre that is a better way to describe that. Either way, so that's where that's at. You follow. She's the Major. She's a member of an anti-crime unit, very elite anti-crime unit that takes care of some very high-ended stuff. And one of the things that I enjoy most about Ghost in the Shell, by the way, I don't like Ghost in the Shell. Let me make that clear. But one of the things I like most about the show is the fact that it really bothers to go out of its way to really show the tech and how it actually changes things, because it should. It should change how crimes are committed, and it should change how crimes are investigated. I agree with both of those points, and I do think that that is something that should be an aspect of that kind of a setting. My friend Gary loves Ghost in the Shell. That's why I've been exposed to it so much. So what I'm talking about specifically is the Ghost in the Shell live-action movie that's coming out. And I've seen the trailer that launched last week. Teaser, excuse me. Let's use the right term here. And it does actually look relatively decent. No, I have not, Emperor Palpatine. Let me reiterate my I don't have time point here. So last week, they launched the teaser, and I do have to say it looks kind of cool, actually. They do seem to have gotten several things correct. One of the things I wonder most, though, is what they're doing with the story. Now, let me go ahead and be honest with you for a second here. The only story in Ghost of the Shell I'm really familiar with in any way is The Laughing Man. For those of you who haven't actually seen the series, I'm not going to go too much into spoilers, but for those of you who have seen the series, you know exactly what I mean when I refer to The Laughing Man. And I saw a few tiny tidbits that looks like they're kind of going in that direction, but I'm not actually sure, and I haven't been able to narrow that down. There's been a lot of, you know, vague information about the movie and what they're doing with that. So I'm not actually sure where they're going with the story, and I know this sounds weird, but that should be a very major part of something that's Ghost in the Shell. Again, I don't even like the show, and yet I do have to point out that the thing that really did highlight Ghost in the Shell and made it such high quality for my friend Gary, and even for me, not liking the show, was the fact that it was exceptionally well written. Not that well performed, if I'm being honest. I mean, Richard Epcar is awesome. The Major, as Takoida pointed out, the Major has a very serious problem in that she's basically a Vulcan. I'm going to segue for just a second here. Most people don't know how to play a Vulcan. I've said before there's only 2 people who've ever really pulled that off. And I simply can't think of their names. Tim Russ and the gentleman who plays Sarek are like the only people I feel have really actually pulled off playing a Vulcan across the Star Trek franchise. Because a Vulcan is not boring. A Vulcan is not dull. But most people don't know how to play that, you know, that kind of straight-lined kind of a character. It's just, most of them just play it as if they're on drugs, or if they're, you know, snooty, or Mark Leonard, thank you. Mark Leonard and Tim Russ. And so most people just play it wrong, but Mark Leonard and Tim Russ hit the right balance of emotion controlled, but not emotionless. Expressive without being demonstrative. It's a very hard balance to meet, and that is the Major. She is not, you know, she's not emotionless, but she is very self-controlled. She is a very cool customer, very cold in general. And I've had several, yeah, and they've tried to emulate Spock and failed at that. And again, some people are wondering probably why I didn't mention Leonard Nimoy in that, because Leonard Nimoy didn't play a Vulcan. But yeah, exactly, Takoida. I agree with that. That kind of archetype needs someone who is very intense and very focused. As weird as this sounds, I feel the gentleman who played Scorpius on Farscape actually did a better job of playing a Vulcan than several characters who actually played Vulcans. But anyways, so that's my biggest worry. Now, I don't dislike Scarlett Johansson's acting, but in my opinion, she hits a very specific type of acting. There's only certain things. Wayne Pigram, thank you. Wayne Pigram, great role as Scorpius. Very few, in my opinion, she really does only go just, she has her niche. You know, some actors have range, some actors are good at these kind of things. I think she's good at this. And that's fine. I'm not sure if she can actually play off properly as the Major. That's probably my biggest worry. By the way, let me make this clear. The whole controversy about her skin color, I don't give a damn. I'm just going to say that as bluntly as I can. I do not give a damn. Okay? What I care about is whether or not the actor can pull off the role. That's my concern, because I'm not sure she can actually pull off this role. Now, she has tried to play someone who is basically a robot, twice to my knowledge, but both times she came across as a robot, not a Vulcan. There is a difference. And if you don't understand what I mean, watch Data, Brent Spiner, who in my opinion is the definitive actor of robots. I mean that sincerely. He does a magnificent portrayal of a robotic mind. playing alongside Mark Leonard, because he has. That happened in the episode Sarek in TNG. There is a difference. So, we'll see. We'll see exactly... Yeah, exactly, Dakota. We'll see what she does. I may or may not see this. It depends if my friends want to see it. That's really going to be the deciding factor in the movie for me. But again, I want to segue this into another topic, because we're going to be talking about CBS and how much I hate TBS. So, I hate CBS. Let me rewind. Let's not get into the CBS thing just yet. One of the things... let me go ahead and do a new timestamp, because this is going to segue nicely into the CBS thing. So let's just make a new timestamp here. One of the things that is an unfortunate reality of the last... 40 years? When did 2001 Space Odyssey come out? When did that come out? Yeah, me too, Lurker. Hang on. When did 2001 Space Odyssey come out? I'm actually curious here. 2001 Space Odyssey. It's hard to type with notes on my keyboard. It came out in 68. So, since then... Some people disagree with this, some people argue this, some people disparage when this happened, but it is my opinion that since 2001 Space Odyssey, or at the very least since Star Wars, science fiction has invariably been married to special effects in the minds of the people who make movies. And whether or not that's true in the minds of people who watch movies, that's another thing. Don't actually know if that's true. But so, one of the great consequences is that a lot of science fiction movies haven't been given, to be as blunt as I possibly can here, the credit that they deserve. They have not been given the attention, the directing, the acting, the writing necessary to craft a good story. They've been explosions, special effects, CGI when it became available, you know, spectacle. Because it's such a thing that science fiction... And it is kind of logical why they go on this. Science fiction is much more of a effects piece than it is anything else. And again, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, aside from the fact that it leads to things like the Transformers movies. Now, to make this clear, if you guys like the Transformers movies, that's fine. I mean, there's several Transformers movies I like. So, I mean, I'm not exactly throwing stones from a glass house here or anything like that. But... yeah, actually, the RoboCops are a great example of that. But my point with regards to this is the Transformers movies were big science fiction-y, or excuse me, big special effects-y things, and very much lacking. I know, right, Django? But yeah, we're very lacking in some of the other aspects of a good story, specifically because so much time and attention was being put onto the effects. You know? Now, my point here is that this is something that, I mean, obviously there are exceptions to this, but this is just kind of the general rule, and has been for many, many, many years. For the majority of my lifetime, if not all of my lifetime, this has been the rule. Now, I mentioned this, so let's connect these 2 points. I mentioned this with regards to Ghost in the Shell, because what is it I just mentioned with regards, yes, Corwin, what I just mentioned with regards to Ghost in the Shell? Good acting, good writing, right? That's what really made the Laughing Man, the standalone complex good, in my opinion. What did I see when I looked at the trailer? Effects. Flashiness. This is why I'm worried about the Ghost in the Shell movie and why I'm not, like, super excited to see it. Because I'm worried it will be a typical sci-fi movie. Which means lots of effects and an acceptable everything else. And effectively, at this point, you could basically say the typical sci-fi movie is the same as a typical action movie at this point. The two are so close to each other in skeletal structure and the approach to the aspects of movie making. Now, I have no idea if that's true or not. We're just going off of the initial teaser. We don't have information, but you see my worry. Now, this is how this... So, let's tie this neatly into hashtag ScrewCBS. Everyone, hashtag ScrewCBS. This irritates me. So, as you guys know, there's this show called Star Trek Discovery, which is supposedly coming out next year. We'll see. So, originally, we were going to have Brian Fuller doing the showrun, being the executive producer. Okay, I'm hesitant. Brian Fuller has done some pretty bad stuff, but maybe we'll see. Okay, and they were going to get Nicholas Meyer involved. Okay. And then it was going to be only available on CBS All Access. Well, that's terrible and very, Origin. Looking at you, EA. Okay, and then the launch date was pushed back. Okay, and now Fuller is no longer going to be the executive producer. Then this. So, someone who actually works at CBS Interactive Media specifically, the CEO, says, and I'm just going to quote this word for word: "Science fiction is not something that has traditionally done well on broadcast. It's not impossible for the future if somebody figures it out. But historically, a show like Star Trek wouldn't be a broadcast show at this point." Now, I actually read the whole interview, and I can see what he's mentioning, but there's so many things wrong with that I don't even know where to start. I really don't know where to start with that. I really don't. It's like it's like the idea that Star Trek wouldn't function on television as a broadcast show. Yeah, so I asked a question in one of my recent Babylon 5 ruminations. Do you think Babylon 5 would work nowadays? Assuming you touched up some of the older aspects of Babylon 5, most notably the effects. My opinion, having thought about it extensively, a lot of people gave their thoughts. I think it would, because Babylon 5 is all about continuity, all about character, all about strong story, and on top of that, it's got the big, the epic feel to several things of that. I think that would work. That would sell gangbusters right now, to be honest with you. I think the market is more available now for Babylon 5 than when Babylon 5 came out. It's one of the reasons DS9 didn't actually do that well when it was coming out, and now is considered one of the better Star Trek, if not the best, Star Trek shows. Now, and then we've got the fact that there are science fiction shows now that are doing fine. Now, okay, so part of the problem here, let's clear something up. He misused the term broadcast, because the assumption I actually had when he mentioned broadcast was he meant television. That's actually not what he meant. What he meant was a serialized show. In other words, the idea of a regular show that has an on-season and an off-season, and, just like TV shows used to be, okay? That's what he meant. So that actually makes him worse than I was thinking, because I was going to try and play devil's advocate a bit and say, well, in fairness, television is very much on its way out right now, and is basically half television, half internet anyways. But no, he didn't specifically mean, yeah, I know, right, Django, that it wouldn't work as a TV show. He meant it wouldn't work as a show, a regular show. That Star Trek wouldn't necessarily be, let's just remove the broadcast from that, a show at this point. Because there's apparently no market for a science fiction show right now. One of the other things, so this is why I brought up the effects thing. One of the other things mentioned in his interview was something about how there's just so much time and money invested into a show's effects, a science fiction show's effects. And so his statement was, paraphrasing at this point, it was that a science fiction show has to have amazing special effects, has to have mind-blowing things to compete For those of you who don't follow television productions as much as I have in my past, you know, there's a concept called a bottle show. This is how this works. You always save up. You have it like a set budget for the season, right? I know, right, Octavian? There's no market for Star Trek. You have a set budget, okay? Now, a bottle show is something you do which costs very little compared to the other episodes. It usually is set in one location or one type of location. Doesn't have a lot of effects. Doesn't involve a lot of fancy shots or expensive shots. Doesn't do a lot of location shooting. Location shooting is actually one of the more expensive things when it comes to television, believe it or not. Or at least it was. I shouldn't say now. I don't actually know now as much, but it was. You know, you do a location shot, that's expensive. So you do a bottle show, and that episode costs much less to make compared to the rest of the season. So in other words, it's budgeting. It's basic, bare bones, using your goddamn brain in order to actually have the money go where it's needed. You do bottle shows, and you do character shows, and you do that kind of stuff, and those shows are cheaper, and then you use the money when you actually need something interesting to do, and you have this big, fancy, expensive show. And, you know, that kind of a thing. And, yeah. But no, they need those special effects to be able to compete. One of the other things that was mentioned... Now, I'm not going to pass judgment here. That's not what I'm here to do on you guys. I'll pass judgment on CBS all I want. But... one of the things that was mentioned with regards to Discovery, Star Trek Discovery, is the idea of the anything goes, including cuss words, specific things that are mentioned, cuss words, and naked bodies making their way onto the television show, because, I don't know about you guys, but that's what I watch Star Trek for, cussing and sex. Now, let's take away the emotional perspective for a moment. Obviously, I don't want to see cussing or sex in my Star Trek. There's the truth. But let's take ourselves out of the emotion for a moment. And look at this for a moment. Just look at what that statement means. And let's look at what that statement really means. That statement really means Game of Thrones sells well. Therefore, we should emulate it. But we don't actually know how to emulate Game of Thrones, or any of the things that actually, you know, make Game of Thrones a well-done show, so we're going to bullet point it. Yes, I'm saying that they are once again bullet point syndroming here. That they have looked at a successful show, made bullet points of what made it successful, not an actual in-depth analysis, just bullet points, and said, alright, here we go, let's do this. There's a plot to Game of Thrones? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So anyways. I'm not even sure I'm going to be watching this new Star Trek show when it comes out. Assuming it ever comes out. It may not. They've had so many production issues, it's ridiculous. They're still having production issues. Moving on. Hashtag ScrewCBS. Where's my timestamp? I'm sorry, I'm just sighing. That's emotionally draining. It's emotionally draining to think that Star Trek is in the hands of morons. Again. Sorry, I'm just calling it like it is. Okay, let's talk about EVE Online. Now, I don't know if any of my viewers actually, I haven't really played EVE Online in several years. And I had several issues with EVE Online. I didn't enjoy it. But the reason why could be best described by the fact that I felt there was nothing to do. Now, to explain what I mean by that, EVE Online is what I call player-generated content. And I've had to define that a few times because the literal term isn't quite where I'm going with that. The idea is that there's not really a lot of developer-generated content. I mean, there's some, but, you know, there's not a lot of quests, story arcs, content that the developers craft and you play through. There's a lot of the players make their own things happen and decide their own stories and their own fates and their own corporations, all that fun stuff. And that's generally... I don't know, Zoan. I really don't. I mean, I do, actually. Anyway, so, yeah, EVE Online is now free to play. And I was looking into that a little bit. I was just kind of curious, you know, how exactly this worked out. And I was curious what it meant by the free-to-play. And the weird thing is, near as I can tell, nothing's different. I don't know if you understand what I mean by this. But I can't... Again, if anybody has played EVE Online recently, please feel free to clarify, but I don't feel like anything is changed despite the fact they've done this. In fact, I feel like I've actually talked about this before now that I'm thinking about it. So there's this thing where you have the Alpha account, where you get 21 ships per character, normal training speed, and you have a 24-hour skill queue. Whereas you get the Omega account, you get 326 ships to fly, 428 skills to level, double your training speed, and infinite skill thing. So yeah, that's exactly where I'm almost positive that's exactly what they're doing to Yokana. I'm almost positive that they're just turning their demo into free-to-play and relabeling it, which I don't think gets them any points. Yeah, Tor is still the worst free-to-play platform, although this does look like it's moved in that direction, because this is, again, basically a frickin' demo. A mislabeled demo. I mean, that's basically a well, excuse me, not pay-to-wait, but free-to-wait is actually what this is. This is a free-to-wait model. And it's like, okay. And... Now, I don't just bring this up to bash EVE Online. That's not what I'm interested in. I do find it interesting that they're doing this marketing push because, from what I understand from a business side of things, the people behind EVE Online are trying to drag in new players. Now, if I could pause for just a moment, and this is going to sound weird, hear me out. I don't understand why. Hear me out. The people who play EVE Online are people who are quite dedicated to it and quite involved with it, and they're probably going to be playing it for a while. They're what I like to call the Ultima Online crowd. For those of you not aware, Ultima Online, the people who played Ultima Online, the people who subbed to Ultima Online, did so until the servers shut down. They were committed. It was part of their existence. I actually knew a guy, personally, who was like, hey, yeah, I'm totally going to do this. That crowd, that's what's keeping EVE Online going. And as Takoida points out, that crowd and the design of the game overall is very, very much a huge barrier to entry. EVE Online has a massive barrier to entry, and a lot of that is deliberate on part of the players who are involved. Those players, I shouldn't speak for all, but I have actually talked to a couple of people on this. Those players have basically flat out said, do not join our game. Get the hell out of our game. Go away. And I know that there's at least one company, I'm not going to name names here, that is going out of its way to hunt down and destroy new players to frustrate them into quitting. Because you can tell when it's an alpha account. So the only things they could do to make... So a marketing push to get new players, okay, I kind of see where you're going with that, because what that's going to do is that's going to... That doesn't cost them anything, in other words. So if they get a couple of new players that actually stick along, that's basically free money at that point. However, if they put real effort and time and money into getting new players, then that would probably do more damage than good at this point. Just my opinion. But they've got their niche. The niche is basically in it for the long haul as much as it's going to go. And any attempt to dissuade that is only going to work if they get lucky, I'm just going to put this bluntly, and get a huge number of new players in order to offset the fact that they would probably actually lose some of the older players as a result of this as kind of a shift. And that would involve things like actually changing the way the game works and functions. I've heard EVE Online called Spreadsheet the game. I'm not sure. I don't think actually that's actually 100% fair. I do actually think the gameplay of EVE Online is actually not actually bad. It's an interesting idea. For those of you who haven't played EVE Online, the actions you do actively get you things like credits. Well, credits and, you know, doing missions, carrying this to there, blah, blah, blah. You level up, putting that in quotes because it's not really like that, just be over time. Even if you're logged off. Your skill, you just set a skill to train, and skills take minutes or hours or weeks or months in order to train. And so you just leave that training for however long. So, yeah, there's the actual gameplay is not actually disinteresting, although it is still a, like I said, a barrier to entry. But if they try to change that up and shift that around and move this down to something that is more to try to lower the barrier to entry, they're going to piss off a lot of players. That would have been cool, Deacon, honestly. And again, as AxeCac very validly points out, there is a very delicate political infrastructure in EVE Online. It's actually one of the most interesting political environments I've seen. And it's all player designed. The players created their own political infrastructure, and new players completely upset that balance in many different ways. So I can kind of get where they're coming from, although the elitism, no excuses for that. So anyways, I don't actually have much else to share here, except for the fact that I want... So this is going to be the weird tie-in thing. I'm trying to loosely and crudely tie my plot points, or my points, together today. So EVE Online is very big on player-generated content. And that was one of the biggest things that made me disinterested in it. More than anything else, even more than the toxic environment of the player base, which was very vitriolic, and actually got my very first video on this show. I actually took the video down because I was tired of the negative comments I was getting on it. But no, I want to talk about Assassin's Creed. Now, as we just kind of talked about yesterday, actually, iterative game design is not necessarily a bad thing, in my opinion. And I do think that people are a little bit too deleterious in their commentary towards games and towards franchises that have iterative game design. If you don't know what iterative game design means, it means you don't really switch up the game that much, each new iteration. You just have a new game come out, and then it tweaks and changes and alters the previous model just a little bit. And then the next game comes out, and then they tweak it a little bit more. Pokemon is probably one of the most definitive examples of this. Excuse me. But Assassin's Creed is another good one. The only big shift that ever happened in Assassin's Creed... Well, actually, there was two. Was Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2, which was a pretty big shift. And then Assassin's Creed 3 to 4, I believe, was the shift there. Because 4 actually introduced a new method of gameplay, like completely with the way they did the overworld and the ship and all that fun stuff. And I have some comments about this that I don't want to spoil because the Assassin's Creed Rogue rumination is still coming out. But the thing I'm getting to here is Assassin's Creed has always had a fairly strong emphasis, hey blood brother, on story focus, with a couple of modern exceptions. The ship in 3... no, that's not actually what I mean. I don't mean the inclusion of the ship. In 3, the ships were just kind of... I mean, granted they had the new engine, but the ships in 3 were basically mini games, mini missions. In 4, the ship was one of the primary functions of the gameplay as far as getting around, hopping off a ship to go to an island, hopping back onto the ship, that kind of a thing. The seamless land-to-sea thing that they did. But no, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the fact that I want to find this guy. What's his name? I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's a French name. Hascoet? I don't know. Anyways, I want to punch him in the face. So for those of you not aware, they had this policy for a while that there would be an Assassin's Creed game a year, okay? And each year there would be an Assassin's Creed game. Now, to make this clear, I don't actually 100% disagree with that idea from a creative standpoint. From a marketing standpoint, there's some obvious issues with it. But they had two completely separate developing teams, and one would be working on this game, and then one would be working on this game. So it just kind of did this. You follow? And it actually, they actually put out some decent games. I'm one of those weird people who doesn't hate Unity. I'm one of those weird people who actually enjoyed, you know, Revelations and 3. 3 is probably my least favorite of the series, if I'm being completely honest with you. And that's a shame, because 3 actually did some very interesting things. But no, the biggest problem is what they're doing with the next Assassin's Creed game. I'm just going to try and quote this word for word here. So, Hascoet, I don't know how to pronounce his damn name. I don't respect him enough to pronounce his name correctly. He has said that seeing the non-interactive cutscenes and cinematics... Actually, let me rewind a bit. Games like Far Cry and Assassin's Creed generally deliver an overarching narrative in their games. Yeah, that's probably one of their better functions, in my personal opinion. Every mission in an Assassin's Creed title begins with a cutscene that advances the story in some way. Hascoet said that seeing non-interactive cutscenes and cinematics annoys him because it takes away his ability to express. Hascoet, for the next Assassin's Creed title, has said that the developers have created a system in which what you do doesn't just affect the moment but the long-term as well. My actions will change the world. Which, let me just go ahead and start off by saying that sounds pretentious as crap. But let me summarize what's being said here. Less story, less developer-generated content, more, here's a sandbox, player-generated content in Assassin's Creed, whatever the next one is. Pax and I talked about this a bit. He brought this to my attention. Hi, Zero. No, Telltale Games have story. The idea here is to remove the story. I'm not joking. Now, people are going to make fun. Go ahead. It's okay. Everyone has their opinions. But one of the things that has really actually kept me interested in even some of the dips in the Assassin's Creed series is the story. The plot. The characters. Removing that, ejecting that from the Assassin's Creed series, what is left? I'll go ahead and tell you what's left. Running around and getting all the viewpoints, doing all the little side quests and side missions, all the procedurally generated stuff, like go hunt this assassin, or go knock this ship down, or whatever. Go collect this stuff over here. That's it. That's all that's left in Assassin's Creed when you remove the story. Now, some people like player-generated content. I think I've made my opinion clear on that. I'm not going to get further into that. But what this is doing is looking at it and saying, well, story is crap. Let's just get rid of the story and go with player-generated content. Even though I really don't like player-generated content games, I would never say that player-generated games are crap. I would never say that just player-generated content is crap. I would never say that people who like player-generated content is crap, which is exactly what this guy has done in the reverse. He has said that developer-generated content is crap. That it annoys him. That's what pisses me off here. Now, if they make a good player-generated content, I'm not sure it does either, Dakota, if I'm being honest with you. This sounds like he just wants to take away content in general, but if he... Maybe they are going with multiplayer to quit. I don't actually know. We don't even have a name with the thing. Yeah, exactly, Corwin. That's exactly where I'm going with this. So if they actually do a thing here where they make this multiplayer, which is actually kind of what I'm predicting, by the way. I'm predicting that they're going to go in this direction of having either... Oh god, don't do Radiant quests. Because they're either going to make this multiplayer, or they're going to make it Radiant quest galore. Because those are never ending, and people could just make their own story. Which, I'm sorry, I do legitimately think Radiant quests, you know, procedurally generated content has its purpose. I do. But one of my biggest complaints about games like, say, Skyrim, just calling it out, or other games like that, is the leaning on procedurally generated content. If all the next Assassin's Creed game has is either multiplayer, generate your own thing, which might actually work, or Radiant quests, which will not work, in my opinion, then that's just off my radar at that point. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one, Necro. I'm kind of with you on that one. And it's funny because, obviously, so let me just address all three of my complaints here, because I got three. First of all, I don't think that kind of thing would work in Assassin's Creed. Just my opinion. I don't think that would really work, I think it would work in the modern setting of Assassin's Creed, but, well, I don't want to get into that. But I don't think going into a specific past era and having just nothing but player but generate, I don't think that would actually work. Just my opinion. It's my first complaint. For those of you who remember, they actually tried this. Do you remember that? Was that Assassin's Creed? It was Revelations or Brotherhood. But they tried that with the multiplayer side of things. Do you remember that? The whole point was you were supposed to basically pretend to be an NPC when you were actually an assassin and kill the other assassins, and there was this whole... It was the first attempt to do that kind of a thing, and it didn't actually go anywhere. So that's my first complaint. My second complaint is the fact that... This one I have to actually talk about a bit. I'm kind of spoiling my Assassin's Creed Rogue rumination a little bit here, but... There's issues with the Assassin's Creed story, and it can be best described by the fact that I honestly, genuinely feel like the writers don't know what to do with the modern story, even though they've got all of the frameworks of the story already in place. For those of you not aware, the past story of the Assassin's Creeds, the past story of Unity, the past story of Rogue, the past story of Syndicate have been pretty damn good, in my opinion. The story going in, you know, in the historical side of things has been very strong on character, very strong on development, very strong on, you know, moments and scenes and blah blah blah. And they're not afraid to change things or affect things or move things forward. The present storyline has moved forward approximately one step from Assassin's Creed 3. 3 ended. The modern story was moving forward fairly strongly in each of the Assassin's Creed until 3. And then, spoiler alert, for real, just in case anyone hasn't played it, so 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Okay. At the end of 3, Desmond dies. They avert the crisis, humanity is saved, and now they have unleashed this new horror. Okay, so now we've got this new arc going. Cool, Season 2 has started. I'm with it. And that has moved forward exactly one step. All we know now is that she's still trying to get physically incarnated so she can take over humanity for their own good. Clearly villainous, clearly monstrous, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that's it. That's just 3 games has managed that one little bullet point in the modern story. It's pathetic. The past story has been doing great. IMO. So I had to mention all of this crap. I had to mention all of this stuff to get across my second complaint about this. And that's the fact that in an era in which they have potential to move forward the modern story, and have already been moving forward the historical stories, the idea of just dropping that... Imagine Deep Space Nine. I know a lot of you have seen that. And imagine you suddenly see the Jem'Hadar ship collide with the Galaxy ship. You remember that scene? I'll never forget that moment. Boom! Destroys the galaxy, destroys them. You remember that scene? And then, oh my god, what are we going to do? The Dominion, you know, and there's so many things that scene, I can't wait to talk about it when we get to the ruminations. And then, we've decided to remove the story from Deep Space Nine. Like, that's the moment at which they decide to do that. What? And then there's the third thing about this that bothers me. Sorry, I really want to hammer this in, because I want to make this point clear. This guy is an elitist prick. That's what bothers me. I don't care if you have something legitimate to say if you're being a douche about it. I don't. If you're going to be some kind of overwhelming elitist prick about something, I don't care if you have a point. I don't care if you have an idea that's legitimate or genuine. You're being an elitist dick about it. And as I think I've made clear, this guy does not have a point. My actions will change the world. What? Oh god, that would be horrible, Malachor. So, that's my complaints about the Assassin's Creed thing. The good news, which is funny because they already frickin' killed him. Honestly, that is kind of my prediction, Saldir. I really legitimately think the writing staff doesn't know what to do with the modern story, even though, as I think I made clear, they have a Season 2 starter. Like, they've got an arc already built. They just have to follow it, and they're like, I don't know what to do on it. That's the moment you get in New Blood, by the way. If you've got an arc, if you've got an idea, and you don't know what to do with it, you start getting in New Blood and new ideas and say, how do we make this work? Star Trek has done that more than once, by the way, in more than one show. I just keep bringing up Star Trek today. I don't really mean to. Let's talk about something weird. How many of you guys know what Real Escape is? Oh, I should probably make a point. Where are we at? 57. God, I've already talked for... I've been nothing but rant. I feel like today is just rant week. Yes, I actually did like Unity in the past. I thought it did some interesting stuff. But I digress. So, anyways. Hey, Progue. Real Escape. Anyone know what Real Escape is? I won't blame you if you don't know what it is. It's actually a Japanese thing. Yes, I did love Disney. Every week is rant week. I'm sorry, my nose is killing me today. So Real Escape is this Japanese thing they do where you put in a room with a bunch of other players and there's actual puzzles, like physical, literal puzzles you have to solve in order to escape. And there's a timer and there's rewards. It's a thing. It's actually kind of cool. It's basically a specific branch of LARPing. And while, you know, LARPing has a lot of a bad rap, I honestly don't think LARPing should have a bad rap. I think it's a cool idea, and I've done it myself several times. It's fun. If you get other people who are also interested in having fun, that's always the trick. So if you get a bunch of people who are just interested in having a good time and trying to escape from this room, then it's like, oh, cool, you know. So they're doing a Zelda Real Escape. This is something they announced last week. Yeah, exactly, Deacon. They're doing a Zelda one. And they're going to make it so that you actually have... it's not just going to be the puzzle room kind of a thing. There's going to be puzzle rooms, adventure rooms, I'm not 100% sure what that means, and combat rooms where you have to actually, you know, fight your way out. And be like, okay, there we go. And try to make this move forward. And there's going to be this whole thing regarding, you know, you have to try and get the Triforce and away, and someone's going to be playing Ganondorf, you know, that kind of a thing. And it just looks kind of cool. And I think it's actually kind of awesome that Nintendo has signed off and then said, yeah, sure, go ahead, do something with our IP. I don't have much else to share about that other than my hopes that Nintendo the corporate side of Nintendo, to make my statement clear, will be more okay with other branching outs of their IP in the future, because again, Real Escape Zelda sounds pretty cool to me. I'd love to do that if it was available too. For those of you who follow my show at all, you may or may not be aware I actually did some LARPing at Gen Con recently. It was a real dungeon specifically thing. There was some combat and there was some puzzles and there was some shifting stuff around. It was fun. There's still a picture of me up on my Twitter of me in the chainmail I was wearing with my little foam sword. And I talked about it during my Gen Con video. It was fun. So the idea of doing that with like a Zelda theme, in addition to the fact that there's the obvious familiarity effect attached to that, there's also the fact that, that's it sounds fun, regardless of the fact that it's Zelda. Adding the whole, oh my God, you have to figure out this puzzle, and then there's a rolling ball of death coming after you, and if it hits you, you're on it, blah blah blah. Anyways, it would just be cool. Moving on. I don't have much else to share there. Let's talk about Minecraft. Who here wants to talk about Minecraft? I guess I should have shifted this forward, because we were talking about player-generated content. Let's be honest with ourselves. Minecraft is probably one of the bigger player-generated content games out there. And when I actually use the term... player-generated content, I have actually used Minecraft as the example of what player-generated content means, because there is effectively no developer-generated content in Minecraft. There's actually like 2 tidbits of developer-generated content in Minecraft, and even that's debatable. They've done a new patch recently. Now, before I go into opinion or thoughts or anything else like that, let's just talk about it. So there's the exploration update, which has added a new type of villager who you can turn emeralds into a map. Gets you to spot certain caches, blah blah blah. You can go to ocean monuments, woodland mansions, and they have a brand new type of thing called illagers. Illagers, of course. Well, yeah, actually, I have Lurker. But anyway, so yeah, they've had these illagers that are like slightly smarter enemies that do new type of attacks, and new magic has been added to the game, and blah blah blah. And you get new llamas, which will actually carry loot for you. There's a new type of chest. I can keep going. There's a bunch of stuff they're adding, but here's the thing. Why now? I don't want to sound negative, but this is too late. This is adding stuff that the mods have already added to the game, except it's official now instead of, modded. And in fact, there's more better stuff of this type in modded Minecraft. Whole new zones, whole new concepts, whole new magic, whole new mobs. Now, AxeCac has the answer. It's because Microsoft has taken the reins, and they're basically treating it like a new IP. And I'm not sure what I think of that. If you asked me my gut impression right now, just right that, I would say that's a bad idea. I would say that's a bad idea because they are not treating it like a game that's been out for years. They're treating it like a game that just came out, just right now. And I think that is incorrect. I think they should be really working to push Minecraft forward, if they want to push it at all, and really do some big major things with Minecraft, rather than here's some new AI scripts, here's some new effects, and here's a little bit of extra new random stuff you can encounter. That's little stuff. That's the kind of stuff that would be okay if it came out a few years ago, not now. Now, I know that Minecraft is now available on a bajillion systems, including like calculators and everything like that, but that doesn't change the fact that if they really want Minecraft to be relevant now, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea for the Skyrim reason, then they need to actually push Minecraft and not just... And let me say, we were talking just yesterday, what would I do with Final Fantasy VII? Let me go ahead and say right now, the single biggest change I would make to Minecraft is to rework the engine from the ground up. It is a garbage piece of crap engine. I'm sorry, it is. It is gutter trash. It is not well designed. in, like, every way. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't know what I mean. Anybody who knows programming, and people who know programming better than I do, have looked at this game and said, why? Now, we all know the reason why. It was never designed to be played the way it's played. This was designed to be something much smaller scale and much more, limited, and then Minecraft exploded, which nobody predicted, and then they just kind of kept the same engine and the same rendering and the same everything, and it's just been iterated forever and ever and ever. Well, what's wrong with the engine? There's two big things wrong with the engine. First, it's a Java game. It's like entirely a Java game. Those of you who don't know what that means, it's bad. The second problem is actually very, very simple. Have you ever wondered why Minecraft uses more resources than a modern game does? It's actually... I'm not that great at programming specific code, so I'm going to try and describe this in my own limited, terrible terms. As I've said as Minizan has said, I am a terrible teacher. It's when you're programming something, there's lots of different ways to get from point A to point B. Okay. Now. This is a bad analogy, so hear me out, okay? But if you're very well programmed, we usually call this well optimized. That point A to point B is like a straight line. Bzzz, right there, right? So, bzzz, and that optimization means that it takes much less of your computer, or console, or whatever, much less processing, much less rendering, much less resources, hardware-wise, to make this line happen. Now, have you ever heard of the term spaghetti logic? I've wrote this, but yeah, it's this. This is what Minecraft does to get to point A to point B, and then it loops around a bit, and then it goes over to the moon and comes back, and then it gets to point B. I know I'm stretching the analogy here, but bear with me. That's what Minecraft does. It is a very circuitous route to get from point A. It's very poorly optimized, and it is very poorly. It's very inefficient, and it's in Java. On top of that. So, yeah. That's the problem with the programming of Minecraft. It's one of the reasons why certain Minecraft servers, you just kind of get used to the fact that occasionally you just get disconnected, because it's trying to do this, and it has an issue right around here. It's, hang on, disconnect. We just got to start over. Resync. Okay, there we go. And Lord knows Minecraft is not the only game that does this. Hi, Darkrai. Dude, where were you? Yeah, this is why I say they should just rewrite the game from the ground up with modern efficiency and modern optimization to be used efficiently and then produced out so it can run better and smoother on basically everything. Just my opinion. I know I'm not the only one with that opinion. Now, several people in chat have pointed out the obvious counter-argument. That's going to break every mod in the community. And that is a valid point. Let's be honest with ourselves. Because as I've said, as has been mentioned, Minecraft is still relevant and still has a large player base, but most of those people aren't playing vanilla. Most of those people are not playing, base game. They're playing heavily modded game. And that is a genuine concern, and I'm not actually going to argue against it. I would still make my point. If I was on the dev team, I would still say, guys, we need to go through this. We need to fix this code. And we need to just start all over. We just need to start from scratch and rebuild the engine, because we can do that. We have full access to everything that went into Minecraft's design. People who are not professional developers have reverse engineered everything about Minecraft. I mean, God's sakes. Just my opinion. Now, if they do a Minecraft 2, which is a new engine that's actually well designed and really pushes Minecraft forward, great. I haven't heard any rumors about that, so I can't even comment on that. I've only got 2 more things to talk about today. Where's my timer? There it is. 40, sure. Let's talk about... So, I don't have much to say here, and I know I may piss off some of my viewers here. I'm sorry. I don't want to. Grand Tour came out, last Thursday, actually. I made time to watch it in like 5-minute chunks while I was getting some work done. And, so, you know, woo. For those of you who don't know what Grand Tour is, that's fine. For those of you who do know what Grand Tour is, if you haven't seen it yet, you should. I do have to say the intro was great. Like, I was actually just jazzing at the intro. Because that was awesome. It was... Wow. It was really cool. And then they started doing the celebrity scene. I had to actually pause it at that point, but I was laughing so hard. But anyway, so yeah, the Grand Tour is I'm really, really happy with it. If I'm being 100% honest, I would say that they have refound the spark. I have to admit, though, I am biased. Before I go into that, I want to share something. So I went to Amazon. Let me actually see if I can pull it up again really quick, and just started watching it. Where is it? Where's my Amazon video? There it is. Yes, Grand Tour, go. So there's like ratings, right? 95% 5 out of 5 stars, which means nothing, by the way, for those who don't know how Amazon ratings works. But there's one star. Where is it? Oh, look, looks like they might have gotten rid of the comment, actually. Yeah, it looks like they actually did. Looks like they deleted the 1-star rating that I was commenting. I just wanted to share this. I wrote it down. The comment was basically, oh, this is exactly what I want on my television. Another show about a white guy. And that was all it said. Anyways, regardless of stupidity, by the way, I apologize to everyone for being a white guy. But regardless of stupidity, the thing I wanted to share with regards to BBC. So, as I said, I am biased. Okay, I'm very biased, and that's because I hate the BBC. I don't mean I hate Doctor Who. I don't mean I hate the BBC's shows. There's actually quite a lot of BBC shows over the years that I have enjoyed. And I'm not going to go down the list, but there's been a bunch. Most of it is older shows. Shows back when I used to watch television regularly. But it's good stuff, right? But the BBC management has made me want to strangle them so many times. Because... They're evil. Okay, I like to use this example, but I can't remember the exact specifics of it. There was a gentleman who found one of the lost Doctor Who episodes. If anybody knows the story better than me, please feel free to share. Because he found it and he was like, hey, look, you know, I found this. And the BBC went after him for it. He found... one of the lost episodes of Doctor Who. And if you don't know what that means, just trust me when I say this is kind of a big deal. He found... he found one of those episodes. And he's like, here. And the BBC was like, we will sue you. We will pursue legal action. We will go... And just... Wah! There's more specifics, and trust me, the specifics just make it worse. But yeah, that actually happened. And that's just one of the trillions of things the BBC management has done that's just evil. I'm not even going to say dumb, just evil. And, yeah. And so, now let me explain what this has to do with Grand Tour. As I've said before, I don't condone what Jeremy Clarkson did. Jeremy Clarkson is a very abrasive person, and punching someone on the set is unacceptable. It is. But that being said, the way that's usually been reported in several bits is very, very slanted. In other words, they did eventually get it to one. There was just a legal battle involved in him trying to give it to them. We did get the episode back. Anyways, so the punching unacceptable, but it wasn't just like most of the way that the news, especially the BBC News, was portraying this was like he just walked up and slugged the producer. And on the occasion when asked why, they'll say, "Oh, he didn't like his meal." It was actually as I described before, I've actually already talked about this, there was actually quite a few, there was like a whole buildup of several days of stress and tension and leading up to this one specific conflict between this producer who openly had admitted prior to this incident that he hated Clarkson and wanted to fire him, and Clarkson, who didn't like him either. And then that led to the punch. Now again, the punch is unacceptable. Let's make that clear. If I was in charge, I would pull Clarkson aside and say, fight for your job. You know, right now, with no other information, you're fired. Figure it out. But, that being said, regardless of what happened with Clarkson, it is my opinion, and I have no definitive evidence on this, that the BBC was strangling Top Gear. I don't know if any of you who've watched Top Gear, but Top Gear started kind of doing this towards the last few seasons, in my opinion. I still enjoyed it, but it was a noticeable dip in quality. And there were several things that were noticeably getting worse about the show. And then that happened. You know, Clarkson, the incident happened. Clarkson quit, actually. Handed in his badge, left. And then the BBC completely screwed up Top Gear. But Hammond and May stood by Clarkson and said, no, if he goes, we're going too. And then the Amazon was like, hey, guys. And my point in all of this is what I'm trying to say is I think one of the reasons, this is just my opinion, and again, I don't have any concrete facts here, but it's my opinion that Grand Tour will be awesome. Because I really, really liked the first episode. It was like watching the good Top Gear again, basically. And it was really good, and there was a lot of really good stuff. And I was like, yes! So I'm really looking forward to it. And it's my opinion that the reason why is because the BBC's not involved anymore. I really do think, like, having that giant that giant mound of whale blubber on top of the editing team and the actors and the directors and all that fun stuff being removed is going to make it better. My opinion. I do know I'm not the only one who has that opinion because a lot of my friends watch Top Gear and Grand Tour as well. But yeah. Yeah, now, in the interest of total honesty, we've only seen one episode of Grand Tour, and it is worth noting they should put their best foot forward on the first episode. But they did, so I'm hopeful for the future. What is the appeal of Top Gear? I actually had someone once describe Top Gear to me as thus. It's a show about three guys who really love cars and show that enthusiasm in every inch. And I thought that was a cool way to describe it. It was a simple way to describe it. It doesn't really get across the whole point of Top Gear. But yeah, there's some... The three people, the three gentlemen involved are actually friends and have been friends since before the show started. There's some really good chemistry there, is what I'm trying to say. And they really like cars, and they really go out of their way to show that. It's very enthusiastic. There's a lot of real enthusiasm. Excuse me. On top of that... they also like to do stuff that's just fun. Like, let me just use one of my favorite examples. They like to try and turn a car into a boat and then go across the English Channel. Any TV companies I actually like? No. What? Yeah, I know! The Clarkson in a Tank episode. I'm looking forward to that. Anyways, so that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on. I did think they took a little bit too much out of their way to make several specific jokes that were jabs at Top Gear. My dream car is a Lotus Elise 111R. Is that... And that might mean something, the fact that I have that answer right off the tip of my tongue. That's a nice car. Looks nice, too. Oh, wow, Deutsch knew it, too. Any company I hate the least? Well, I guess Amazon, technically? I don't know. Does Netflix count? Man, I don't know. Anyways, so, let's talk about, Pokemon. Pokemon! Man, do I have any Pokemon music? I don't think I do. I'm pretty sure I don't. I'm wrong. Alright, let's get some Pokemon music. So, for those of you not aware, there are several rumors spinning around right now. And those rumors are that we will have our first main console. This is such a gray area, but our first main console Pokemon game ever next year. Now here's the thing. The rumor is that so for those of you who have followed Pokemon, you know there's usually the third game, right? You know there's red and green, and then yellow. There's gold and silver, and then crystal. There's sapphire, ruby, and then emerald, right? There's pearl, diamond, and then platinum. And I think that was actually the last time they did the third thing. But anyways, they're thinking about doing the third thing again with Sun and Moon. And it's going to be one called Stars. And don't ask me that, Myron. I suppose it depends on how you define that. I'm not sure, Permeus. So they're thinking about, this is all still in the rumor stage, but they're thinking about Stars will actually be on the Switch rather than on the 3DS. If this is true, let's just go ahead and presume this is true. But I want to make that very clear. Big asterisk. You know, if I have to define the word rumor again, I will do so. Rumor, not verified as true. Okay. Okay, we got that. All right, so let's assume it's true. So there's two things that come to my mind immediately. First of all, that's the third hint now that they're going to abandon the 3DS. That they're going to discontinue the 3DS and work on something else. Probably the Switch itself, we'll see. But I haven't heard even the tiniest bit of rumors of another handheld, so probably the Switch. That leaves us, for those curious of the other tidbits of information leading in that direction, first of all, look at the upcoming 3DS release schedule. There's like 4 games on it. And that's it. Second point, the Wii U has discontinued production. And the third point is the fact that the Switch is, you know, effectively a pseudo-handheld. In fact, based on everything I've seen, the Switch is actually more handheld than console, but we'll not get into that right now. Wow. Wow, Chemic. Yeah, so and also, I suppose if we were going to keep going, yeah, the 3DS has been around for a while. It has had a very robust thing. It started off terrible, let's just be honest. The 3DS had a terrible launch. They fixed the crap, made it work, and now the 3DS is like, woo! And I love the 3DS. It's one of the best faith purchases I've ever done. If they're discontinuing the 3DS in favor of the Switch, that would confirm something I theorized about when the Switch was announced, which was that they want the Switch to be something other, to be the both. They want to release handheld games and console games on the same device. And I'm not sure what I think about that. It's a very risky move. Very Nintendo. It would be a very Nintendo kind of move. And I suppose it depends on exactly what they do with it. The things that were mentioned with regards to this... Hang on, I actually have... Where'd I put that? Here it is. No, not that one. They're not... Rumor. Here we go. The only thing that's been mentioned alongside rumor, need to define rumor again, was the idea that they're going to be increasing the graphics resolution, a few other things like that with regards to this, and adding new content as the third game in the series usually does. So, we'll see exactly where they go with that. Yeah, exactly, Axgag. I actually kind of am curious how the Switch's launch is going to go. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I agree with you, Takoida. The fact that the Wii U... They've already announced the Wii U is discontinuing, and there are no new 3DS games coming. They haven't discontinued production of 3DSs yet. That is worthy of note. So as Zo1 just pointed out, it's possible they could be hedging their bets a little bit and keeping 3DSs around just in case the Switch doesn't do that well, which wouldn't be a bad idea. The 3DS, in my opinion, is a perfectly functional and worthwhile handheld. It doesn't really need replacing that much. Not really. But anyways, the other thing this makes me think of is if, well, I guess actually I already said that, didn't I? I guess I said both things. I just said them in the same thing. The two things it makes me think of is the Switch going to be the Nintendo console rather than console handheld? Damn it, Carlos. And the other thing is making me wonder if they're going to discontinue the 3DS in favor of the Switch. I have no idea if they're going to do it this or not. I really don't. What I'm left questioning is what would be best. Now, the problem is we don't know all the information about the Switch yet. That's one of the biggest problems. We don't know. Let's just go and address what are, for me, the two biggest concerns about the Switch. Number one, damn it, guys. Number one, battery life. That is a huge deal. I don't even think I need to explain why. And number two, how's it feel to play? Now, I will never be able to answer the second until I have it in my hands. Let me go ahead and use this example yet again. This is a Wii U controller with Zelda styling on it. It's very cool. This is awesome. Wait, what? What are you talking about, Deutsch? Anyways, so, Wii U controller, right? When I saw this thing, well, one of the biggest problems is all of the pictures of this thing were this. This does not look comfortable or fun to play with. But when I actually had one in my hands, this is great. This is actually among my favorite controllers. Everything is exactly where it should be. We got these two controllers. We got these two right here. We got the this right here, and everything's just right here. And it's very smooth and comfortable. If you remember when I did my unboxing, I made a point of like showing you the back of this thing and the contour so you can see how it just slides neatly right into your hands like that. Like, it's very comfortable and very smooth, no cramping, no anything. So I have no idea if the controller's going to be any good. And of course, we haven't released the information on it yet, nor will we until like January, so who knows about the battery life. Now, someone asked earlier, what's the point of the new 3DS? There are 2 points. One, the hardware is basically better. So it takes a lot less time for stuff to load, like noticeably less time for stuff to load. And it just runs smoother, you know, no slowdown on some more intensive games. And number 2, the better battery life. Oh, I guess, and number 3, it also feels more comfortable for certain people to wield. As I've mentioned before, this 3DS right here is a little uncomfortable to play with, but the new 3DS, which is actually over there, so I can't show you right now, is much more comfortable to use. So those are the purposes of the new 3DS. So yeah, I'm really not sure what I think of the Switch. People have been asking me so many times, are you sold on the Switch? Well, I don't have enough information to decide that. All I would be doing right now is gambling. I mean, I have no idea if I would get the Switch right now. If you put a gun to my head and said, you have to decide right now, get a Switch, you know, now or never, then I would get one. But that's stupid, because at that point, all you're asking me is, do I have faith in Nintendo's consoles? And my answer is yes. The only time Nintendo consoles have ever let me down, aside from their garbage consoles like the Virtual Boy, but I mean, you know, their main consoles, the only time they've ever let me down with that is the N64, and to be blunt, even the N64 had some really, really, really good games on it with lots of replay value on it. So, yeah. But yeah, it looks promising. We'll see what they do with it. They're moving in a different direction with the Switch. They may or may not be replacing their handheld and console with the Switch. I don't know. There's too little info. And again, rumor. I need to just add like a big asterisk to the screen. Anyways, that's it for Loreweek this week. Who here wants to play some Heroes of the Storm? Because I'm playing it, and if you don't want to play it, that's fine. I understand. I'll just play it without you guys. But anyways, we're going to start that up pretty much immediately. So I'm going to chop this off for our recorders, and I'll be right back.